Yo, what is up, guys? Joker bringing you another video. This time going over the Ascendancies in Path of Exile 2. This is going to be more of a brief what to keep in mind about Ascendancies in Path of Exile 2, as opposed to something more in depth where I'm explaining how everything works. This is more of a tips and tricks to keep in mind, since there have already been several other content creators who made that other video, as well as they have hands-on experience. Like Ziggy D has footage from the trial of Sekima that he was able to play through on a playtest. So I would recommend checking that video out if you're curious how the first trial is actually going to play out. I'll have it linked down in the description for you to make it easy. But this is going to be more, like I said, of that tips and tricks. Keep these things in mind. Starting us off, let's go over what ascendancies are. So, ascendancies are specialized subclasses for each class. Each class is going to have 3 ascendancies, but in the beta, there's only going to be access to 2. We're going to be using the witch for the example here, real quick. Her ascendancies are going to be Infernalist and Blood Mage. Blood Mage specializes in stacking life and using your life to cast your abilities, and Infernalist specializes in fire damage. If it wasn't obvious with like Infernal. So, how do you ascend? You're going to have to complete one of 3 trials: the trial of Sekima, the trial of the Chaos God, or the trial of the unknown, because they haven't announced it yet and it's not in the game yet. The soonest that you're going to be able to ascend is in Act 2. In Act 2, you're going to find an area containing the gem Bala Bala, and by defeating it, you're going to seal it in a coin, and this coin is now a quest item that gives you unlimited attempts in the Trial of Sekima. From what I'm understanding, you can just repeatedly like slam your head against a wall until you beat this trial, and this will give you your first ascension points. I would recommend getting this done in Act 2 because the ascendancies actually
Level
are
up
quite.
completed.
Thank you, Scene Engineer. The ascendancies are quite game changing and really important. They're going to change your build drastically. So I highly recommend, even if you are not a Sanctum enjoyer or a roguelite enjoyer, knocking your ascendancy out right now, because Act 2 is sooner than Act 3. The second main reason why I would recommend you get this done as soon as possible and get the Trial of Sekima completed, even if you don't like roguelites or Sanctum, is because of the tier system that the Ascension trials work on. Much like in Path of Exile 1, where there's Lab, then there's Cruel Lab, then there's Merciless Lab, and then there's Eternal Lab, there's going to be 4 difficulties of these trials that you can complete. Ziggy D has a great photo that he made that I'm going to borrow to kind of show you what I mean of how there's the 4 different levels, right? And the main reason you want to get the Ascension trial done as soon as possible is if you do the if you do the trial of Sekima in Act 2, you'll be rewarded with 2 ascendancy points. But then when you go to Act 3, if you do the trial of the Chaos God, you will not receive additional points, because it's the same thing as doing the same level lab over and over again. You only receive those 2 initial points. With the what is an ascendancy out of the way and the how would you get an ascendancy out of the way, this is going to be more of just a couple of things to keep in mind, and primarily one thing to keep in mind, and that's going to be the fact that ascendancies are a permanent choice as of right now. If you play normal PoE, you may be familiar with you being able to rerun a low level lab as long as you don't have points in your ascendancy. When you go to the altar of Ascension, you can change
Level up
your.
completed.
Thank you, Sea Engineer. Wow, I'm getting a lot levels, you are able to change your ascendancy, right? Let's say you were playing a gladiator and then you just want to play a slayer for a while or try a different build. You could do that in PoE1. You would just have to run the base lab over again, make sure you had no point spec, click the altar, and you'd be able to change ascendancies. That as of right now, I don't know if they've stated if they're planning on bringing it back, but as of right now, ascendancies are a permanent choice, much like in last epoch, where you choose like the ascendancy and your character is that class from that point on. There's no takesy backsies, right? It's you are whatever you ascend into. Even if you change your points around, you will not be able to change the ascendancy. So that's the biggest thing to keep in mind, because otherwise, if you want to try the other ascendancy, you will have to run another character through the campaign up to Act 2 and the Trial of Sekima at a bare minimum. And the last thing to keep in mind about the Trials of Ascendancy is the rewards. They actually give specialized rewards. The Trial of Sekima is going to be giving you jewels and timeless jewels. These are items that you socket into your skill tree for additional stats and benefits. The normal jewels are going to give you basic stuff like added lightning damage and chance to shock, while the timeless jewels are going to impact nodes in an area. So they're going to work kind of like timeless jewels do in regular PoE right now. And then there's the trial of the Chaos God, which is going to be rewarding you with Vol Orbs, which will modify your item in a number of unpredictable ways. If they do have the same outcomes as PoE1, there's going to be the adding an implicit, there's going to be the doing nothing. We've already seen that it can add a socket, and I'm assuming the other option would be bricking your item. So it's always that risk versus reward. But the ability of adding an implicit onto an item or a socket onto an item is always going to be incredibly strong. And then besides the Vol Orbs, you receive Soul Cores. Soul Cores are going to be cores. Is what I'm going to call them, that you socket into your gear, your weapons, and your armor. And these are just going to be primarily like additional stat boost. The ones that I've seen examples of are pretty much kind of just like raw stats. Like I'll throw one up on the screen where it just says like additional attack speed or reduce slowing potency of debuffs on you. Um, Really interesting phrasing, but yeah, that's going to be the rewards coming from the trial of the Chaos God. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The couple of things that I think you should keep in mind about Ascendancies in Path of Exile 2 going into the beta. I plan on going super hard on the beta. So once I get to the Ascendancy trials and play around with them a little bit, I'll definitely have other videos coming out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with this and future content. And until next time, take care.